Part 2 of my ANNKE security camera review. Now part 1 didn't go so well. Go back and check out that video. Part 2, I have a little higher hopes because this is a PTZ camera, and I just think PTZ cameras that are available to the masses at a cheap price point have promise. We'll see. Let's get started. What up everybody, it's George Langabeer with SilverHammer Surveillance coming to you from Voltage Studio again. Here on the channel we talk smart home tech, we talk home security. We have videos every week. Follow me on the socials, specifically Instagram, where I give you a little more insight into George, the man behind SilverHammer, and some behind the scenes smart home stuff, home security stuff. Check us out on Instagram. But again, this is part 2 in our series where we're reviewing ANNKE security cameras. Last week we did a turret dome camera. Didn't go so well. This week we're doing a PTZ camera. Let's hope it goes better. Once again, we're going to unbox, we're going to talk specs, we're going to talk about their app, and we're going to talk about my thoughts. Well, let's get started with the unboxing of this PTZ. All right, we've unboxed. Let's talk some specs of this ANNKE PTZ camera. This is the NCPT500 3K PT Speed Dome PoE security camera. PoE standing for Power over Ethernet, meaning your Ethernet cable is going to power the camera as long as you've got a PoE switch or an NVR with a PoE switch. True color night vision, 3K high resolution with 16:9 image scale, so the aspect ratio is 16:9. 3K in between 2K and 4K, which is in theory fantastic. 4 incredible image enhancement technologies, which is DWDR, WDR is wide dynamic range, 3D DNR, BLC, and HLC. Since this is a pan tilt camera, you can pan horizontally up to 340 degrees and vertically up to 110 degrees. It has a built-in microphone and speaker for two-way audio. In theory, these specs are great. Advanced H.265 plus coding, store more information using fewer hard drives. Again, H.265 is pretty standard nowadays. Some other specs, you got supplemental light using smart white light up to 30 meters. Horizontal field of view, which is 105 degrees, and vertical field of view is 57.3. Diagonal field of view is 124.9. Pretty good field of view on this pan tilt camera. Audio, which is built-in microphone and speaker, supports two-way audio, like I said. Supports micro SD card up to 256 gigs. So again, just like the part 1 turret dome camera, you can use this without an NVR with an SD card. Now, even with ALIBI, I don't like doing that. I like to have an NVR. It just gives you a better interface, better control of multiple cameras. But this can be a standalone camera. And again, I asked ANNKE to send me an NVR because I just didn't get any benefit out of using this camera by itself. Operating power is 12 volts DC. Operating temperature is negative 22 degrees to 122 degrees Fahrenheit. That's negative 30 Celsius to 50 degrees Celsius. Now that's a great weather rating, which is IP66. So in theory, those specs are pretty fantastic. Now let's get into the app. Now for this, the app is very similar to part 1 as far as that turret dome goes. This just adds the pan tilt feature. So if you watch part 1, you can skip this, use the chapters in the video down below and skip the app. But anyway, okay, so you can switch between standard definition and high definition. You can zoom with your little magnifying glass there. You've got control of the audio. You can mute it here. This is two-way audio. You can take a still picture of anything on the screen. You can do a video clip with the next icon. So you hit it once, it'll start recording a video clip, hit it again, it'll stop the video clip. You can store that in the app, and then you can actually move it to your camera roll, and then you could text it or email it to the police or whatever you want to do. You've got on the right, you've got 1 camera, 4 camera, 9, 12, 16. So if you have an NVR hooked up to this, you can see all your cameras. And then you've got your pan tilt functions where you can spin the camera and tilt it. And you can see here, you've got a nice wide angle and a good tilt and a good zoom. So I'm zooming on the building across the way here from, this is back in SilverHammer Tower when I tested this camera, but you can see it's pretty decent zoom. Again, you've got full access to your hard drive here, so you can review all your footage from the app. So for the most part, the app is decent. Let's move on to my final thoughts on the camera itself. Now, this camera is $89.99. Again, I didn't mention that in the specs because I want to talk about why it's $89.99. In theory, that's fantastic. Oh my God, George, this is a PTZ camera that I can spend $89.99 on. Yeah, it is, but guess what? That's not a good thing. I felt like I could sneeze and destroy this camera when I installed it. That's what happens when you spend $90 on a PTZ, an outdoor PTZ. You can have all the specs in the world. It's hard for me to even talk about the specs of this camera because the build quality cancels it all out. It looks great, but it's cheap plastic. And again, when you install this, you could break it. And that's not good. So if you're on a super low budget, maybe this is better than nothing, but that's where it stops. I mentioned this in the first video. ANNKE has a relationship with Hikvision. They get components. They're basically made by Hikvision. Hikvision has a relationship with China. Again, I'm not into the politics of all that. I'm a security guy. I don't care about all that, but I will tell you that it does affect relationships here in the United States as far as doing government jobs or law enforcement jobs. Now, that might not affect you in your home, but it affects me as a professional. And you want your cameras to be NDAA compliant. These are not. NDAA compliant means that they're compliant with the US government law enforcement here in the United States. Hikvision just unfortunately has a bad reputation, which unfortunately by default, ANNKE has that reputation. That's why I stick with ALIBI. Austin, Texas, I know who I'm calling, NDAA compliant. So that's two strikes, build quality and the NDAA compliant. And again, I didn't like using this as a standalone camera, so I asked ANNKE for an NVR, and that's where strike three hits. Their NVR interface is downright irritating. I am trying so hard to be neutral and constructive, but man, when something sucks, it sucks. Their NVR sucks. Just to tell you like it is. I felt like I was dealing with ALIBI NVR that was in 2008. So we're going way back to 2008. ALIBI has advanced way beyond that since ANNKE has not. So maybe you should have sent me a different one. I don't know if there's another one. But man, firmware updates or something, you got to update that NVR. So great specs, trying to be constructive. You know, 3K, that's awesome. Night vision in theory is awesome. The pan tilt angles are great. The app is decent. But man, the build quality, the NDAA compliant, and that NVR from the dark ages. That's where it all goes wrong. So I don't even know if I can talk about anything else. So again, I say this all the time, you get what you pay for with home surveillance. Now, especially, this is completely different than Wi-Fi cameras. We're talking wired camera systems, a wired NVR. I hold those to a different standard. Wi-Fi, it is what it is. You're knowing what you're getting into with Wi-Fi cameras. It's a whole different level compared to wired. Wired is always the way to go for me, but you gotta have a good wired system. And this just isn't. Sorry, ANNKE, I tried. I wanted to have a different brand to offer you as my subscribers and my customers here locally. Again, I could be a dealer of any company I want to. There's a reason I pick ALIBI. They don't let me down. Companies like this can let me down. Now, the very first part of this series, Onwo, that was a pretty cool camera. I could put my stamp on that for the price. ANNKE, I cannot. Sorry. So anyway, that's part two. And let me know what you think in the comments. Hopefully you like this video. I hate being negative. I would love to love these cameras, but I can't. So I hate that, but it is what it is. So like this video, subscribe to the channel. We very much appreciate having you here. Best subscribers in the world. You're so supportive. I love you. So please tune in next time. I'm going to keep testing cameras. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to keep trying different brands for you. I want to find what's best for all of us. You, me, customers here locally. I'm going to keep trying, but this wasn't it. This one missed the mark. So anyway, till next time, peace and love.